Hello, and welcome back to the Nourish with Purpose podcast. It's Bailey, and I hope you're having a great Wednesday or whenever you're listening to today's episode. I am so excited about today's episode. I just feel like being a seasonal steward, or at least that's like the verbiage that has come to mind when I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, and just how we can best utilize what God has given us in each season. Now, as we enter spring, I know it is not the first day of spring. That was a couple weeks ago, actually. But I thought, I'm still going to record an episode on spring, the springtime. Foods you can eat for spring, hobbies you could add in, how you can be creative, how you can clean, detoxify your environment, move your body in a way that's supportive and increases circulation, and overall supporting your liver for the season we're in, which, like I said, is spring. I think something about living in the Midwest that I truly love is that we get to enjoy every season. And I think when you live somewhere where it's warm all the time, you don't always get to, or maybe you don't always appreciate every season because you weren't really in the dead of winter, right? The dead of winter here is like -9+ degrees and crazy wind, or the fall, super windy and dusty. Springtime, it's warm and you can enjoy the humidity, or maybe not enjoy the humidity. But really, spring is my favorite season, and my favorite holiday is Easter. So spring is just a very special time for me. I feel such a jolt of creativity in spring, and there's new life around us. Things start to green up. Like, it's just it's such an energetic time. There's just so much energy and excitement and anticipation for the better weather to come, which is just why I love this season, and I'm going to savor every minute of it. It also kind of serves as my new year, which that is not unique to me. There are many cultures that actually practice the springtime as the new year versus being in January. And I think that just makes so much sense because when you're able to look outside and, like I said, see new life, see growth, see green, see just so much sunlight coming in through the windows, like that feels like a good time to establish habits, to integrate new hobbies, to really just kind of evolve or have goals and be more goal-oriented versus the dead of winter, right? Like in the Midwest, like I said, we experience all the seasons. And so January for me does not feel very motivating. But as soon as we hit April, honestly, I feel so motivated. I feel just happy. Overall, just very happy. And I'm really excited to share more on that in today's episode. We're going to dive into all of that and more, but I want you to hear something, okay? If you can hear that, that is the sound of the most delicious thing ever, and that is my cherry crumble latte. Now, I'm sharing this because this is a way that I have been nourishing my body throughout the last week, and that would be integrating coffee syrups, homemade coffee syrups, into my morning beverage lineup. And I know that might be like, okay, Bailey, what's unique? What's special about that? I love coffee. I think I shared that on last week's episode. I love coffee. I love working at a coffee shop. I love making lattes. And so making specialty syrups is kind of a new hobby I've found. And I'm actually going to be starting a series over on Instagram, a coffee shop series, where I'm going to make all these specialty latte syrups and just share them with you. I think something about postpartum that something I wasn't expecting was how much like free time I feel like I have. And to some people, this might not sound like the best time to be adding in new hobbies and spending time, I don't know, kind of pouring into myself, honestly, because I'm pouring into another person. But there's a lot of time in the day, and I just have felt so much creativity, and I felt so much creativity. I don't know. I've just felt inspired. I felt like being creative. That's a better way to say that. And one way is through my morning coffee syrups. I have a coffee every single morning, so it just feels like a way to take care of myself and treat myself. And so I made, like I said, a cherry crumble. I'm going to do a banana Foster. I'm going to do a blueberry crisp, a carrot cake, and a pistachio orange. I don't know, guys. It might get a little wild, but I am so excited for that. And again, like just to have an outlet. Something about social media is that I've kind of recognized over the last few weeks is I don't necessarily love to be on it, but it is an outlet for me to be creative, and creating content is a way that I really feel like I'm able to connect with other people, but I don't want to like fit into a certain category anymore. I feel like so much of what I do is health focused and health oriented, but I really just want to show my life and show things I'm passionate about in different seasons, show things I'm interested in. And I know you might be listening and you're like, Bailey, it's really not that deep. You can post whatever you want. And I understand that, but for so long, my business has been so tied to social media, and I'm really trying to like sever that tie and build relationships and build connection with people versus like posting about what I do for a job. Because and this is like something I repeat to myself and I've really kind of like had to sit in, is that I work to live. I don't live to work. And as much as I love what I do, and as much as I love taking care of people and connecting with people and talking to people through my job, obviously that's a perk, I just have so many other interests and so many other hobbies that I'm equally as passionate about. And I want to just share more about that and share more about that side of me. And I think that's kind of come about because I've been jumping into hobbies recently, and like I said, focusing on making coffee syrup, scrapbooking. I have some air dry clay. I'm going to make little charms, and I honestly have no idea how that's going to go, but I'm looking forward to that as well, and paint them. And gardening, it's time to plan my garden, and just so many things that I really love to do. Sourdough would be another thing, and I just feel like I haven't really organically shared that. And also, I don't know, I just have some different interests right now, and I think it's just fun to be able to pursue things, and even if I create content around it, like that's enjoyable for me and that is fulfilling for me. So I don't know, I feel like that's kind of just how I have been nourishing my mind and my body in a way. I think it's just kind of like a breath of fresh air to not feel like I have to work all the time and have this time away and this time to breathe, but also this time to support my body with other things and dive into other interests and passions of mine, and hopefully share that with you. Like I said, really with just the intention of wanting to connect, which is why I think the podcast is so cool and why I still continue to make time for it every week, is because it just allows a different level of connection. And to me, that's just very, very special. Okay, so I kind of breezed. You guys are going to have to bear with me because how I speak right now is probably either going to be very slow or very scattered. And that really feels like where my brain is at right now. I feel just a little scattered, but we're going to get through this, and I promise to keep things pretty streamlined from here on out. But if you are new to the podcast, I didn't even mention that is the segment that I do every podcast, is how I'm nourishing my mind, body, and spirit. So I covered how I'm nourishing my mind, how I'm nourishing my body, and then how I'm nourishing my spirit. And this is something that I think, I wouldn't say I've struggled, but I have not made it a focus every single morning like I have in the past to open up my Bible, read a book of the Bible, do a devotional. And so this week I'm working through the book of Esther, and working through it. It's not very long. So I'm just really trying to get into scripture again and read that and start my morning with that, because I did finish the book I was going through. And I'm blanking on what it was called. Shocker. But there was a book I was working through. I wrapped that up a few weeks ago. And so then I've kind of had a lull period. And so getting into reading scripture again, but also just getting into reading in general has been really good for my mind and my spirit. I've started the book, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. You probably have heard of it. I feel like everybody's reading it right now. I'm not typically a self-help book type of gal, but it really has been nice as I'm feeding Oliver to have a book to read versus scrolling on my phone or doom scrolling. And I've honestly recognized a pattern within myself recently of when I'm stressed, when I'm overwhelmed, and I think most of us could probably relate, like I turn to my phone. And I don't love that, but it is a way of self-numbing, truthfully. And so, there's just honestly having to sit with myself on days when I really have nothing planned, or I don't have a lot of social activities planned, or I can't be working, right? Like I'm taking time away. I've really had to sit with myself and process those emotions and feel them very deeply. And I think for a while, what I was doing was just numbing by doom scrolling. And so adding and reading has been obviously just great for me mentally, spiritually, just to have that as a tool to I wouldn't say improve, because like I said, I'm not super into like every self-help book, but to just have something new. I read a lot of fictional books, so to be into something nonfiction is just kind of, it's a good adjustment. So that is how I'm nourishing my mind, body, and spirit right now. But we're going to jump right into the episode. Again, being a seasonal steward, so eating for the season, fun hobbies, cleansing your environment, moving your body, and supporting your liver for spring. So I really want you to take some time to reflect on how spring makes you feel and what changes you see within yourself in spring. Like I had said, I really feel a new sense of energy, a jolt of energy. I feel like being creative. I feel like being outside. I feel like being active. Maybe for you, this is cleaning, getting rid of things, embracing the new life around you, refreshing your space, making colorful meals, creating new rhythms. Again, kind of not that January is when everybody gets off track, but I feel like we try to start a lot of things in January, and you might find yourself right now looking back at those New Year's goals and being like, oh, yeah, I dropped the ball on that one and that one and that one. I really would encourage you to add that in this season. If you are feeling, like I said, energized, you are like wanting to have some change for the better and just really get into it, I would encourage you to go back to those habits you maybe tried to form in January and try reforming those habits or creating that discipline within yourself again. Really, because I'm really starting this, I guess it's kind of like a series. I'm hoping to do this in every season for the next year. So 4 times you're going to get an episode like this. But we really do live our life in seasons, or when we are in tune with the seasons, we're more, I would say, aware of the changes that we see within ourselves, right? So if we think about winter, typically you think about isolating, you crave warmth and comfort, you might have less energy because the daylight during the days is shorter. The days aren't necessarily shorter, but the time that it's light outside is shorter. So this is a time for you to really be intentional with rest and enjoying your harvest from fall. So thinking about your life again in those 4 seasons. So from winter, then we move to spring. Spring feels like a fresh start. We might see a lot of brightness around us. There's new life or rebirth, transformations within ourselves, and we desire making changes for the better. Again, days are getting longer, or the daylight during the day is longer, so days feel longer. This is really considered your planting season, so you might go inward and desire shifting in your career or your business, or start new activities and hobbies. I really did not think of life in seasons until this past year, and I feel like it honestly improved my business by leaps and bounds when I thought about it in this way. It was just a mindset shift, and it's so subtle, but it really helps you have grace with yourself and know that you don't have to go at one speed forever and ever and ever, right? Like in summer. So from spring, we transition to summer. That's when you're more social. You probably do more during the day, and it's a very high energy time. You also get to enjoy those longer days. You might work a lot more. You might work from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m., even if it's not like your job type of work, right? But getting outside, being in the garden, doing landscaping, mowing your lawn, tending to animals, like those are things that I can say for myself. In the summer, usually it's like 9 o'clock by the time we actually head inside after supper, and we just enjoy the longer days. Whereas in winter, if it's 5 p.m., I'm like ready for bed. And so again, adjusting and recognizing like we can sleep and we can live with the seasons. And really, when we know what each season's intention is, I feel like, again, we can be more aware of how we should respond. So from summer, then we go into fall. So this is change and transition. kind of backing off of spring. Spring and fall are kind of similar, but your environment, it looks a little bit different, especially if you live, like I said, in a place where you experience all the seasons. But in the fall, you also turn inward and you reflect on this last year. So this is when you, again, have that harvest period and you can enjoy the crop or the reward of your hard work in summer. So again, we've got winter, it's when you really come inward. We've got spring, that's your planting season. Summer, you probably work harder, days are longer, and fall is when you actually reap the benefit of your harvest or of your crop. And I think of it in that way. I think, again, coming from a farming family, it just makes sense to think of life in that way, to think of it as really planting the seed, tending to the seed, and then harvesting the seed with that spring, summer, and fall. And I think it's a good way to also, like I said, live and approach our business. So for me, last year, what I did is I really pushed myself in spring and I saw very, very little reward, but I felt like that was the season when I was learning. I started doing the Masters of Blood Chem course and I did my home apothecary course. And then in summer, I really just kind of coasted and stayed consistent with the things that I was focusing on, I was learning about. And then I was in fall, or I guess in summer too, I was building out different programs. And then in fall is when I launched those programs. And in winter, I really got to reap the benefit of tending to different programs and clients and curriculum for really about 3 seasons until I was able to then, like I said, reap the benefit and see a lot of growth personally and professionally. And so that was just a mindset shift for me, I thought was really helpful. Again, reminding you that we don't have to go at the same speed all year round because it's just not realistic and we're going to be drained, we're going to experience burnout and just honestly be exhausted. And I'm trying to prevent that for myself and prevent that for you. And there's a verse that comes to mind. It's James 5:9. It says, "Be patient then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains." Right? So being patient in each season. And if you're not experiencing growth, or if you honestly are entering spring and you're not feeling inspired or energized, it's okay, right? Be patient because that time is going to come for you. Like I said, for most people, it tends to be spring, but for you, that might be fall, that might be winter. And just really being patient and trusting in the Lord's plan for your life. Because I know for me, it was really, really hard in late summer to trust the Lord's plan. I'm like, okay, I'm not seeing a lot of growth. I'm not seeing a lot of whatever. And it was really because I was in a season of just, working hard, honestly, just in a season of working hard, being diligent, doing things consistently, but I was not reaping the reward from it until really fall hit and I saw a lot of change happen. And so again, that was a season I had to be really, really patient in. And luckily I had a business mentor who's actually taught me how to look at my year in seasons like this, and understand that like your life is going to fluctuate based on the season you're in, and your business growth is going to fluctuate based on the season you're in, and really just being so intentional with that planting, which is why spring is also partially my favorite, is you are just planting, right? Like you're not expecting a lot from spring. You're just planting the seed and you're tending to the seed and you're being diligent and you're being faithful and just seeing how it grows in time. And we have to be patient, right? Until fall comes and we can see the benefit. So it's just really a special time of the year, at least I really think it is. And so we're going to transition into organ support. Now, this is something that I learned actually a couple years ago now, and I reference this book often, but it's called Ancient Remedies by Dr. Josh Axe. I've mentioned it a lot on the podcast. I've pulled a lot of references from it for the podcast in the past. But really when we think of spring, the organ that we think of, or I think of in accordance to traditional Chinese medicine, is your liver. Now your liver, it cleans, it metabolizes, and it energizes the body. I see this time and time again. I could say almost every single blood work client I've worked with, the organ is typically the most impacted organ or the weakest organ in a sense. And really, I didn't know the value of the organ until I went through that course, Emily Morrow's course, to look at labs. And I started to recognize how valuable a healthy liver is. And I think so often we think of our gut, right? Our gut is what we want to be healthy. We want a good, healthy gut microbiome. And that is valid and that is true. And all these systems work together. But the liver can be so neglected. And I think of seasons in my life when my liver was so neglected. Even just thinking about, my immune health and knowing the link that the liver has to that. And when I was in college and I was going out with friends and drinking alcohol and staying up. And I remember I was taking so many different either medicine, like medications or supplements to support my body. And I was still so confused as to why I was sick all the time. And now looking back, I'm like, no, duh, Bailey. There are so many signs that point to why you were sick all the time. And in my liver, its health was being very compromised. I've been very transparent in sharing, like, not drinking alcohol has been huge for me. And just how I feel physically, how I feel mentally. I'm not saying I don't ever drink, but I really do drink in moderation, if ever. And again, that has been very supportive and very supportive for my liver. Because your liver has over 500 functions. So if we're constantly compromising the health of our liver, our overall health is going to be greatly impacted, right? So some of those functions is the metabolism and detoxification of fat, the detoxification of drugs and alcohol and environmental toxins or allergens. It also is responsible for storing nutrients and micronutrients like copper, zinc, magnesium, iron, vitamin A, D, E, K, and B12. Also responsible for the breakdown of carbohydrates and the production of bile. If you're not pooping every single day, 1 to 2 times a day, you should be raising a red flag because there's something going on in your body. Your liver is closely tied to your gallbladder, right? So it could be a gallbladder issue, could be a liver issue, and that stagnation of energy or that stagnation in the liver, and it needs support, right? Your liver and your gallbladder need support. You should be having a bowel movement every single day. So how do you know if your liver needs support, right? So we can think about like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm drinking, maybe my environment is not great, maybe I really experience reactions to environmental allergens. There are a lot of different ways you can identify if this area needs support. For me, again, when we think of our health in seasons, when I think of spring, I think about then how can I support my liver? Even if it's not my weakest organ, I do like to kind of have a different focus as we transition into different seasons, and just knowing that the liver is an area that needs more support. It's just an area that I also give more focus. So other examples here would be like yellowing of your skin or the whites of your eyes, poor digestion, constipation, dark urine, having pain in your belly or abdomen area. You might constantly be exhausted or have frequent headaches. The emotions that are tied to your liver or your liver needing extra support would be anger, resentment, frustration, irritability, maybe very bitter. And so how you can kind of counteract these negative emotions, you're going to counteract them then with faith, hope, creativity, optimism, right? Working through your emotions. That's not to say it's just as easy as this, like a snap of your finger to counteract the negative emotions. But for me, even like this last Friday, I felt just a lot of emotions very deeply. And I actually went on a walk and just let myself cry. And it felt really good. It's a way for your body to just cleanse, right? And release is just to cry physically. And so I went out on a walk and just did that. And when I came back inside, it was just like I had taken a breath of fresh air, right? Which I literally had. I was outside, but and just felt more inspired to be creative. And I think something that has continuously helped me when I feel these really negative emotions is to think about one creative task I can do that day, right? So even right now, I shared making coffee syrups. That is one creative thing I can do each week or every day that just allows me to get out of my mind, right? I can just do. I don't have to think so much. And really, the more that you do things that allow you to be creative, the more you want to do those things. So it's kind of like, I don't even want to use the word addiction because that's just honestly a negative way to think of being creative. But the more you do, the more you use your hands, the more you want to do that, right? You're proud. You have a sense of accomplishment. You've got a sense of self-worth when you are creative. So if you find yourself really experiencing those negative emotions, I would encourage you to think about, what can I do to be creative? And everybody is creative. I think oftentimes you say, well, I'm not a creative person. And that's because you're thinking of being creative as painting, drawing, doing some sort of like art related activity. But you can be creative in so many other ways. I think one thing I think about often is my husband, right? He is a numbers guy. He is an accountant. And so a lot of his day is filled with numbers and working on his computer. And he's often said he's not creative, but he actually, when it comes to assessing labs, he created an Excel document for me to be able to add it, like put in the lab results and see what it is most often correlated to symptom-wise and like what health condition might be present just based off of how their or what their range was. And that is a form of being creative. Like him sitting down and doing that in like maybe 45 minutes to an hour, if not even less time than that, is something it would take me days, weeks, honestly, I wouldn't even doubt years to ever figure out how to do that. But he was able to just like boop, 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 put it all in my Excel, created a document template for me. And it's been so, so helpful. And that is a way of being creative, right? It's a way of getting out of your day-to-day work, but still doing something maybe that feels comfortable for you. Still feels like maybe your area of expertise. For him, Excel is that. And he created such a powerful tool that is being creative. So no, being creative does not mean you have to do something artistic. You can find ways to be creative. Everybody is creative in their own way. And I think when you take yourself out of that box of needing to be creative artistically and realizing you can be creative by even how you organize your home, it makes you want to do more of that, right? Because that is your area of expertise. That is your niched area. And if you are expecting as an accountant to fit into a mold that creates beautiful paintings, it's probably not going to happen for you, right? Or it's not going to feel natural. It's not going to feel like something you want to do because you don't feel comfortable in that area of creativity. So all of that to say, that has just been so big for me, and I just hope that you're encouraged to be creative regardless of what your specialty is, because it does not need to look a certain way. You can be creative in your own area of expertise. Okay, so to get back to the liver, with liver support, you also want to reduce stagnation. And when we think of the liver's color is green. So I want you to remember that when we think about how we want to nourish our body to support digestion and detoxification, right? So spring is a season when you really want to cleanse. Either it's cleansing your physical environment, your internal environment. It's a time for new energy, new growth, transformation. So when we think of foods that are going to encourage both digestive support and detoxification, we think about foods that are green, right? Your liver is green. And so the foods that support your liver are actually green foods. Now that correlation, when I started looking at the color of food and the area of your body it supports and looking at the shapes of food and the area of your body that it supports, it blew my mind. And I know this is getting a little woo and you might think, okay, whatever, but there is truly so much support to back why there is that correlation, right? And even like thinking about your brain, well, foods to support your brain, walnuts. Well, what does a walnut look like? It looks like a little brain. Like it is just so cool. And I really should really record a podcast episode all about that, because the shape and color of your food really does play a role in how that area specifically of your body is being supported. So when we think about green foods, we're thinking about algae, basil, broccoli, celery, collard greens, cucumber, fennel. We're thinking about ginger, kale, lettuce, radishes, seaweed, pickles, sprouts, wheatgrass, kiwi, peas, mint, artichoke. Very much detoxifying foods. And I'm not a huge you need to do a detox person. I would never say to a client, put all these things in a blender and drink a green juice every day to detoxify. Rather, I like to think of it as supporting, right? So we are supporting our liver with these foods, but it's not necessarily needing to detoxify your liver intentionally with these foods because they're naturally going to do that as you consume more of them. You also want to think of foods to support your gut microbiome, right? So we think of digestion-friendly foods. So for some people, this is going to be dairy. Other people don't tolerate dairy super well, but fermented dairy would be like your kefir, your Greek yogurt, raw milk. Raw milk is a living food. It's phenomenal, and honestly, I love that I consume raw milk every single day because it just makes me physically feel so good, keeps me regular, which is shocking because yes, I'm lactose intolerant, but I can tolerate raw dairy. It's been something I've gradually introduced and had to be very, I would say even like cautious around. It's something I don't try to overconsume, but I do try to have that every single day. Other fermented foods that are not dairy would be kimchi, miso, sauerkraut. Those pickled foods are going to be really great. Pickled onions, pickled carrots, things you can make for very low cost at home. Other seasonal foods would be carrots, apricots, lemon, grapefruit, pineapple, mango, and oranges. So if you're shopping at the grocery store, you want to keep costs low in the springtime. Those are going to be the foods that will probably be on sale or, like I said, pretty affordable if you're able to eat seasonally. Now, that's something I really want to be better at is like looking at the foods and eating them based off the season that we're in. And something that I've even noticed with strawberries, I would say would be more so of a June food, but when I was like looking into seasonal foods, some people had said strawberries were seasonal for spring, and I've honestly noticed a huge change in the quality of strawberries recently. They're massive. They're like the size of a small apple. And so again, like purchasing strawberries, because right now at Walmart, they're on sale, and purchasing foods, they're going to help keep costs low, but also be pretty high quality because they're very fresh. They've not been in cold storage for a long, long time. They should be coming from farm to table pretty efficiently just because, like I said, they're in season right now. Herbs that you could consume for spring, those green herbs, again, that's going to be the easiest way to remember how you can support your liver and support your body in the springtime is thinking of your liver's green, foods are green that support that area. But also mint, basil, lavender, nettle, dandelion root, thyme, rosemary, cilantro, calendula, or oregano. So those would be some of those herbs that you could add in. Again, those are also going to be adaptogens. So they're going to help your body adapt and respond to stress if that is something that's fairly elevated for you. Oregano oil is a great way to support your immune system, and really any loose leaf tea is going to be a great way to support your immune system. I am not a tea gal, but I will force myself to drink it if honestly it comes to that and I'm not feeling good or allergies are really acting up. Something that's happened postpartum is I've had horrible allergies. I think they're allergies. Nathan's not so convinced. It could be the cold, whatever is going around now, but I just know the more that I've been walking outside, the more my allergies have acted up, and that's never happened for me. And my grandma was actually telling me that she experienced hay fever for the first time after she had her first child. And this was obviously years and years ago. So it's interesting how, and she, I think, had also been told that for some women, their allergies act up after they have a baby. I don't know the science behind that. I don't know the research behind that, if there is any. Maybe that's just an old wives' tale, but I do think it's interesting that I have felt that, and I really think it's because my body is depleted. As much as I'm trying to support my body, it's depleted in nutrients and even just overall support because I'm not getting the best sleep and I'm not probably eating enough. There's just so many factors at play, but nonetheless, tea can be a great way to support your systems if that is something you're currently experiencing as well, or if again, you really just want to naturally and gradually and very mildly detoxify your body and support your liver. So if we get into then what harms your body, that would be consuming or over-consuming those drugs and alcohol. Just consuming in general, truthfully, is very harmful for your body and for your liver, especially in excess. Too much caffeine, especially before food, that can throw off your blood sugar levels, that impacts your liver function. So we just really want to make sure that you are eating before you consume caffeine, not relying on caffeine. If you feel low energy right now, caffeine is not the answer, truthfully, long term for supporting your body. And something that I will say too is I get why moms tend to overconsume coffee. I look at my own mother, sorry mother to expose you, but I know for a long time she would overconsume coffee, right? Like it would be a few cups of coffee in the morning or 1 to 2 cups of coffee in the morning and then in the evening. And I get it, right? Like when you are low on energy, when you feel like you're sleep deprived or just getting less sleep or quality sleep, I could very quickly fall into that habit or that pattern of having coffee as soon as I get up in the morning and having multiple cups a day. Now that's something that I don't recommend because I really think there are so many things that can throw off, and I really think it can be a huge component of why you feel stressed so intensely, why you never feel full, why you have headaches, why, like I said, you're exhausted. So I understand the drive to want caffeine and consume a lot of it, but really remembering to eat something before you have coffee and really sticking to about that 200 milligrams of caffeine, 1 to maybe 2 cups of coffee per day, really just to help your body not feel like it is constantly being forced to have energy, and just honestly experiencing the dips, the peaks and the valleys of energy throughout your day and adjusting your life accordingly to that. All right, so now we're moving into how to move your body in spring. Now I have to preface, this is in addition to building muscle because I really think year-round we should be focused on building muscle, right? So strength training. But in addition to this, ways you can reduce stagnation, increase the flow of lymph within your body to overall help support your immune system and support your liver, your digestive system, your gallbladder, all those organs that are so vital to really improving how we feel day to day, would be to do some light stretching, right? To do some lymphatic drainage, walking after your meals. A little post-nourishment walk is my favorite way to reduce stagnation, increase energy and blood flow within my body. And then yoga and Pilates can be another great way to move your body within this season. So now we're moving into then in the spring, how you can cleanse your space, right? So I always think of spring cleaning. Maybe it's because it's a cultural thing, but I really think, again, it is just that transitional period where we are ready to get kind of like out of the dead of winter. We're ready to just remove anything that feels like it's weighing us down and enter into a season where we feel light and happy and refreshed. And one way that I do that is decluttering. So recently I actually went through my clothes and just got rid of and donated, I think it was 2 trash bags full of clothing, just because I first off was just tired of looking at some pieces, but also there's things that just didn't fit me right or didn't feel comfortable. And I'm like, why am I still holding on to this? Like I haven't worn it in 3 seasons or 3, years. Why the heck would I keep this in my closet? So donating, getting rid of things, decluttering your space. Maybe this looks like shoe bins or toys if you have kids. And then doing some deep cleaning with low tox cleaners. And so this could look like washing bedding or blankets. I know you probably have a blanket that you use when you sit on the couch almost every single time that has maybe been washed once within the last month. And if that's very niche to me, then I'm exposing myself because that's definitely the case for me. But wash everything. Wash your curtains, wash your rugs, get things clean. That feels so good to just have a space that feels picked up. You don't feel like there's little crumbs or hairs anywhere. It's all just clean and tidy. Maybe changing out your shower curtain. Sometimes they get a little nasty, especially at the bottom. And they're 30 cents at Walmart. Get a new shower curtain, replace it, out with the old, in with the new. Cleaning out your fridge and really wiping things down. Truly take everything out of your fridge. Same like when I declutter my closet. Take everything out of your closet, then put back what you actually want in there. Do that with your fridge. Wipe down those shelves. Get rid of sauces that are expired. Throw away things in your freezer that are freezer burnt. Just really deep clean your fridge and your cupboards. So I did this last week as well, is I took everything out of my kitchen cupboards, wiped them down, and then put things back. And I got rid of so much stuff like that I just accumulated. And honestly, I still have totes in my basement from when we moved to our house 2+ years ago of kitchen things that I just have not put in our cupboards because truthfully, I didn't use them then, and I probably won't use them now, so they really just need to go. So that's another area where now I'm like making mental note, okay, I need to go through the many totes in my basement of clothes, of kitchen supplies that, again, we just aren't using that somebody else could use if we donated. Clean the baseboards in your house and wash your windows. It's so funny because I feel like that's such an adult thing to wash your windows. I remember there was a really nice day earlier last month in March, and my mom and my grandma both within like the same time frame were like, oh yeah, I really want to go home and wash my windows. I'm like, who washes their windows, And then sure enough, when I got home, I'm like, that window was really dirty. I should probably wash that. And it just feels good to look outside and not see streaks or not see dust and dirt and dead bugs in your windows. And we live on a farm, so I feel like the dust is just a different level. But cleaning your windows, I know it's like, okay, who actually does that? I didn't think I would, and I'm so glad that I actually took the time to do that. Other things you can do to like clean your space or have your space smelling really fresh and honestly just smelling clean, I think is something once you actually clean, not to use these smells to cover up not cleaning, but once you clean, you want your space to smell clean or be cleansed using Palo Santo, sage, eucalyptus, lemon or grapefruit. Blood orange and rosemary can be really great smells of spring and just make your space, again, smell clean when it is also physically clean. And then fun hobbies, I wanted to add this in because I really have deep dove into the realm of hobbies, and this is something about me is Hobby Lobby is truly my favorite place ever to shop. I could spend hours in there, and I honestly did. I was maybe 1 week postpartum. I think it was the Thursday, kind of the week after we'd gotten home, where I'm like, Nathan, we need to go to Grand Island because I need to go to Hobby Lobby. And I probably spent like 40 minutes in there walking around. And that's when I got all of my scrapbooking stuff. I truly just love Hobby Lobby. And that's because I also would say I'm probably a chronic hobbyer, but I've not actively pursued hobbies in a long time. Like I've said before, I don't say this to brag or be like prideful of this, I was working way too many hours before I had Oliver and trying to, again, like make sure everything was in place for when I took time off. And honestly, working too much started way before that. But nonetheless, I did not pursue hobbies. I usually am somebody who buys all the stuff to do a hobby and then it kind of sits there for a while until I'm ready to do it. And there's a lot of things I just haven't done. So that is what this season is for me. Spring is a season of doing these hobbies. And so I wanted to share some fun ones with you that you might also be interested in adding in. Again, maybe for you, these sound like great ways to tap into your creativity. If these sound like the furthest thing from anything that would be relaxing or enjoyable for you, again, find what is within your expertise and find a way to be creative within that space. So some fun hobbies would be scrapbooking, doing air dry clay charms, making fun coffee syrups. Again, I'm going to start a series on Instagram of these recipes I'm really, really excited about. Planting your garden for the late spring and summer, getting chickens or ducks, new animals. Last spring, I got ducks, and I should not have gotten ducks because ducks are honestly the worst animal to have. They're very, very cute when they're little. So when you go to Tractor Supply and you're tempted to get ducks, think a little bit longer about that decision. But nonetheless, again, when you go into those stores like Baumgart's or Tractor Supply, you're going to see the new life. There's going to be bunnies and chicks and ducks, and it's very tempting to want to buy them. And so maybe for you, it is buying chickens this season and raising them, whatever that is. For me, I did a lot of that last year and really, really enjoyed that too. And then also just house projects. So there's an area in our house that I'm really wanting to just kind of improve. It's our back door, and really how our house is formatted is most people do not enter in through our front door. They enter in through the back door just because there is not a sidewalk to the front door. And so they enter in through the back, and it really is very, very ugly right now. And it's kind of an area, because we have a lot of plans long-term for our house, we haven't really put attention into, and it's a very small area. So I'm like, okay, I just want to plan out what I can do to improve what the space looks like, to give it a little refresh and make it actually feel like a cute space to walk into, because you walk into that and it looks a little brutal. And then you walk into our kitchen and the rest of our house and it's very organized and decorated well and light and airy, and I personally just love my house, and so I think positive things about it, which I should because it's my house, but I want that entryway to also kind of feel the same way our house does. And so I'm really kind of have started brainstorming what I can do for low cost to just improve what that looks like. So maybe that's new house projects, painting your front door. I feel like that's something my mom kind of did every spring, was like repainted our back door and our front door. I've seen a lot of people do some fun blue colors of their front door, and I would really like to paint our back door because right now it's a dark blue. That was here when we moved. And so just, again, refreshing your space. If you have something that you constantly are looking at that doesn't feel inspiring, doesn't feel very much like you or your personality, make adjustments to it and have fun with it. All right, so I think that kind of wraps up this seasonal steward series, or not even series, episode around spring. But I wanted to really just encourage you again to utilize what God is giving us within this season, right? Especially when it comes to the foods that we've been given or the things that we just find in our environment. I think what's so cool is every year those flowers that just come back. For me, it's tulips. We've got 7 tulip plants that were planted here. I don't even know how many years ago. And they were here when we moved onto this yard. And so it was just so, I don't know. It was just so special that first year to be like, oh my gosh, like, look at this life that I didn't have to do anything and I get to enjoy these beautiful tulips. So really just dive into the things, again, that we've been given, steward them well, take care of your body, be a good steward of your own health, and support your body and your liver in the best way that you can. All right, so let's go ahead and close today's episode in prayer. Again, I also do ask for prayer requests typically Monday or Tuesday over on Instagram. Otherwise, if you go to my website, which is linked in the description of today's episode, you can always submit a prayer request and I will pray for you on that week's episode. So, dear Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for the sunshine and the change in seasons, and just that I get to fully experience each season. I pray for whoever's listening to today's episode that they just leave feeling inspired and feeling encouraged to really just be creative within the springtime and change their scenery and dive into new hobbies or interests and support their body with good foods that also support their liver, and that they just feel a sense of calm in this season as well, that they don't feel like they're just adding things in, but that really by adding in energy giving habits and hobbies, they feel at ease, they feel refreshed and encouraged. I also pray for Em, and that she just feels patience in this season, and whatever it is she's looking forward to or anticipating, that she just really soaks up every moment from now until then. I also pray for BK, and just that neck pain that she's currently experiencing goes away, and that her body just overall feels refreshed and yeah, that you just take that pain away. I know that can feel so intense and so dreadful every day to wake up with that discomfort, so that you just take that away, and that she's able to do the activities that she loves. I also pray for BG, and that she has a smooth labor and delivery. I pray that she has a baby that is just happy and healthy, and that the whole process is just exactly what you've designed for her, and that she feels comforted by you as she goes through something for the first time, such as labor, and that she just, again, continues to feel your presence through that, and that she feels supported by the people around her. Lastly, I pray for MM, and that you just give her strength throughout her treatments for Hodgkin's lymphoma, that she feels like you're so present through each treatment and beyond that, again, and that she also feels supported by the people around her throughout a time like this. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, so if you're interested in following along with my life outside of the podcast, you can find me at Nourish with Bailey on Instagram. Really, that is where I'm the most active. Otherwise, if you want to connect with me directly, you can always DM me, but also my email is in the description of today's episode. It always is. So you can connect with me that way as well. So with that, I will talk to you again next Wednesday. Bye.